I think she's pretty genuine. I don't think she's gaslighting. You can tell we're attracted to each other. It has nothing to do with physical attraction.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm going to be talking about my first impressions of Love is Blind US Season 9. If you're curious, stay tuned. What's on your mind? Before we get into today's video, I want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, which is Thrive Market. Thrive Market is a wonderful way for me to address some of my own health issues. I was diagnosed with PCOS a few years ago, and I realized quickly that I have to make some adjustments to my diet. Thrive Market makes it so much easier to only focus on the things that I can eat. Some of them being incorporating more protein, so I use protein-rich snacks now, and also making sure that I drink herbal teas that support my hormones like spearmint tea every day. The new change that I'm trying to make to help heal my gut is to decrease my gluten intake. Thrive Market makes it super easy to be able to look up all of that when I am grocery shopping. I find that I get really overwhelmed in grocery stores, going up and down the aisles, being unclear on what fits within my diet and Googling, trying to figure that out. And Thrive Market can support over 90 plus different diets. So I can just type in gluten-free, or I can type in high protein, and they make it super easy for me to narrow down the things that I actually can eat. What's even better is that they make sure that they have high quality products. I actually was using a collagen before that I couldn't find on Thrive Market, and I found that it didn't meet the standards that they require for a high quality product. So that was how I found out that I've been using a low quality collagen powder for the last couple of years. And with the Thrive Market subscription, you're able to save on every order. If you'd like to try Thrive Market out for yourself, please use the link in my description box, or just go to thrivemarket.com/StephAnya for 30% off of your first order plus a free gift. Now let's get back into the video. All right, first I always have to give the disclaimer, there will be spoilers. I'll be covering that first installment of the very first 6 episodes. I'm not talking about everything, just my first impressions. Disclaimer, I don't know any of these people. I cannot diagnose anyone with anything. I can only talk about what looks familiar, and I try to focus mostly on the relationship dynamics because some of it is very familiar with what I work with my clients, and it can be helpful to kind of see things from a different perspective. With that, let's jump in. All right, you guys, this season has already been very stressful. For me, I'm curious about your perspectives. A lot of you know that I actually skipped season 8. And a lot of you have asked me to cover season 8. Watching this season has actually made me more confident in that decision to skip it at the time that I did. And that's not to say that I'll never go back and cover it, but this season has been stressful to watch. I'm just coming off of the UK season. I covered some of the couples from that season, and I personally am really enjoying seeing the other branches of Love is Blind more than Love is Blind US. It's just really getting to a point with Love is Blind US where it just feels like the casting is very lackadaisical. It just seems like there are not strenuous enough psychological evaluations, because it's really going beyond the point where somebody can really trick you into thinking that they're of sound mind. And so it's almost feeling like they're casting at this point for drama, for ratings. And I know that that is what brings people to the show. That's what gets covered the most. And so that's what people watch most often. I always compare a show like Love is Blind to a show like Love Island. On a show like Love Island, if you find the love of your life, cool. But there's an expectation that this is fun, this is summer of games, you're making out with everybody, whether you're coupled up or not. There's a good chance that you'll be with a completely different person by the end than you were at the beginning. That is a show where they may not need to be as strenuous with the evaluations. This show, because you have people who are literally getting engaged, who are planning to be married, some people are very serious about that. Some people are there for clout.
Your boyfriend told you to go on a dating reality TV show?
Yeah. I guess defending him in a way. He just was like, you should go do it. We'll change your life and I'll just be here when you're back.
We have such mismatched intentions and agendas that to, on top of that, not even make sure that the people that we're casting are in a good headspace, it's starting to get concerning. I got this comment before I started this show that really got me intrigued. She said, now season 9 for the US, we're really gonna need a breakdown because the cast this time is unhinged and honestly a little scary. And when she said that, I was thinking like, scary? What does that mean? But watching, I can see what she means by that, especially for me looking at the relational dynamics and the things that we might see or hear that they don't see and hear, and thinking like, oh, you're about to commit to marrying this person. For me, that is a very, very scary thing to watch. And so I completely understand. First, I want to start with talking about the structure of this season. This season has been very challenging for me to break down, especially coming off of the UK season. Because like I said, I really find the seasons in the other countries to be a little bit more authentic. And even if, couples don't work out, it seems like the people who are there, they're trying to communicate, and you can still pick up and learn different things. Coming off of that season into this one and looking at even how it's edited, it's very frustrating because typically what will happen is when the season is over and people are doing interviews, they might say like, actually, me and this person, we actually dated for quite a while in the pods and that never made it to the final edit. And we'll hear that all of the time. And a lot of times people are like, oh man, I wish we saw everything. And I always understood that they can't show every single connection because they're still trying to tell a clear and concise story. They're still supposed to be couples that you root for, people that you're worried about, and usually you have like a villain of the season. So that's why a lot of times you all will ask me, well, why don't you talk about the golden couple, which is usually the couple that doesn't have a lot of issues. They might have something trivial, level 1 type of issue in a relationship, and they get married and they are considered the success story of why love is in fact blind, right? They rely on those for people to say, well, hey, it's a crazy process, but people do find their person, which you can find your person just walking down the street, right? So it's not that it's impossible, but part of the reason why I don't talk about the golden couples all of the time is because they are so heavily edited to make us admire them and to like their relationship that it's very challenging. And then for shock factor, a lot of times they'll have kind of like a fake out golden couple where they know the whole time when they're editing that these people don't end up married, but they want to throw us off so that we're shocked. And they usually are the very first wedding so that you're intrigued to watch the rest because we're unsettled now and that we don't know who's going to say yes and who's going to say no. And so the editing is a very crucial part of this show and of any show when we're talking about storytelling. But this season in particular was very overwhelming. Even as I was taking my notes, usually it becomes pretty clear who's going to be developing a connection, who's probably going to propose. You start getting a feel. I mean, you have usually 1 or 2 triangles in the pods per season that's highlighted. This time, I mean, we saw so many triangles and many of them were unnecessary for us to see because people went home. We saw that Blake left. We saw that Anna left. So when we're talking about Sparkle Megan, for example, she already had 2 people that she was connecting with in a triangle. So she had Jordan and she had Mike and she had Blake. Now Blake was her number 1 for a long time until he left. But did we really need to see all 3 of those connections? I was getting so confused even taking my notes. Like, who is this person? I mean, we're about to be out of the pods and I really couldn't remember people's names. That doesn't happen with me because I'm taking notes on everybody and it's easier for me to see a through line of the story, but it was so hard. I mean, it took me all the way to the end of the 6th episode to remember Madison's name. She got so little screen time, and then we would hardly see the date. You would see people who like maybe have had 1 or 2 dates, but then next thing you know, they're getting proposed to and they do a flashback of all these dates and conversations that we missed. And it's kind of like, if that was important, why wasn't that prioritized over the conversations with these people who ultimately don't even stay on the show? Because there's only a limited amount of time they can give to the pods. And I feel the way that they use that time actually led to a very confusing story where you're not, at least I can speak for myself, I'm not rooting for any couple. There's not one couple that I'm rooting for. I know right now I feel like the golden couple is being positioned as maybe Alini and Anton. Right now I'm having my own doubts about about that connection, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I'm having my own doubts about that connection. Every single couple for me right now is concerning, and I'm gonna be doing breakdowns of the couples, of course, as I typically do, but I know a lot of you want to know my initial thoughts. And because so many people don't even make it to Mexico that we saw in pause that got a ton of screen time, I don't know if I'll really be able to do a video on them because we're really not even seeing them beyond the pod. So because of that, there are some people that I want to kind of talk about what we saw and just get a conversation going, because I'm not sure how much more of them we're going to see. Okay, so the very first couple that I took notes on are Kacie and Patrick. This ended up being a very sad story, and I think that we'll probably be able to learn more and talk more about that once the reunion comes out, maybe even the mixer, you know, where they bring everybody together from the pod squad. You had Patrick, who's dealing with internalized racism, which we've talked about this in previous videos, where a person of a certain race takes on some of the beliefs of the majority group about their race. It can contribute to insecurities.
My major insecurity in the past was being an Asian American man in a predominantly Caucasian area.
And the worst case scenarios can actually turn into externalized racism towards other people of their own race. I didn't see that with Patrick, but we do see that he has developed an insecurity about being Asian in Colorado, and he connects with Anna on that. Anna, another person that doesn't make it to Mexico that we could talk about as well. But with Patrick, you know, this is the main thing, that through line of most of his interactions.
I've dated much older, I've dated my age.
What about ethnicities?
White guys.
Just mainly white guys.
He's so worried about being attractive to whomever he ends up with at the end of the experiment. So of course it's really sad when Kacie essentially validates this insecurity and says that she doesn't see herself being able to grow attraction.
I just unfortunately don't think like my attraction to him is gonna grow that much.
There were signs there. The problem is when you have insecurities that overwhelm your perception or perspective on people, it can be very easy to be soothed by these people because you look at them as being almost in a position of superiority to yourself. I can't speak for Patrick, but this is just something that I see. When a person is coming into a situation and they already see themselves as inferior, they take the word of other people very seriously because they almost put them on a pedestal. But there were things that Kacie said and did that probably should have made Patrick be a little bit more on alert. We have to acknowledge that obviously Kacie was not Patrick's first choice. He wanted to continue talking with Anna, but she left, which was so ironic because she and Blake had this conversation around ghosting.
Have you ever ghosted someone?
Ooh. I've never like been dating someone consistently and then just like out of nowhere ghost them.
Yeah, okay, same.
Just for both of them to ghost, like, is somebody writing a script here? Like, that was just so ironic for them both to be talking about ghosting and then they both ghost. But I did question how involved the producers were with that. But before we get there, let's stick with Patrick. So with Patrick and Kacie, one of the first concerns I had with Kacie is that when she recognized that Patrick had a hesitancy about sharing his ethnicity, instead of validating the fact that he's had these experiences and that she's trying to get to know him for who he is and his ethnicity doesn't matter, it's his heart, she tells him, yes, you should tell me your ethnicity.
Do you think I should share it with you?
Yeah, I think you should.
Like my ethnicity?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that indicated that she did think that was important, that his ethnicity was important to her. And once he told her what his ethnicity was, then her way of comforting him is to basically tell him that her brothers also date non-white people.
My older brother only dates Asian girls. My other brother's girlfriend is half black. And my other brother's girlfriend's from Mexico.
For me, I understood what she was doing, which was basically saying, hey, my family is a very open family, and I give her credit for trying to comfort him in terms of how her family would receive him. But I think that the conversation turning into being about how her family has a lot of non-white people, I thought that was a weird direction to take the conversation. Now you know his background, his ethnicity, you can maybe ask him some questions about that. Ask him more about what his experience experience has been like. Maybe that was edited out, but it just didn't seem like that is the direction that the conversation went. My other concern with Kacie was this applies to her and a few of the other girls as well, which is lustful strategy or approach to being chosen. After Kacie realized that Patrick was not leaning in her direction, she was like, just give me a chance. And I think the way that she was trying to win him over was by just being so sexual. The show started feeling kind of like a sex hotline. I wonder if anybody else got that feeling where I'm just like, for me, it was not hot, sexy. It was super uncomfortable to see these conversations happening. And she was just promoting this kind of lusty curiosity. You know, I just want to rub all over you.
I'll kiss you from your neck all the way down, and then I'll probably put my mouth all over you. I don't know how long I can do that for before I'm just gonna want to sit on you.
I think that Patrick did try to call her out on that because he even said outside of sexually.
I'm more than ecstatic for that, mentally for sure, and like physically outside of the sexual realm.
So I think he was trying to get the conversation back on track, but you know, it is hard when a person is like really saying things that would be enticing to you, especially when your top concern is a person's level of attraction.
People say like, you know, Asian guys aren't like the most attractive guys.
It can feel really good to hear somebody saying all of these things that they want to do with you, while in the back of your mind knowing they've never seen you to really confirm that they really want those things with you. She just seemed like she was getting to a point where she was very desperate for him to choose her. And then for Patrick, he's even talking with the producers and they ask him like, what do you guys have in common? And he couldn't name one thing.
We agree on a lot of things. We agree on basically everything.
Yeah, what specifically?
Man, dude, I gotta recall the date, dude. Sorry, man.
So he's not totally innocent in this because you recognize that this was a person that you really didn't have a solid connection with, yet you continued to move forward with her. Both of them just seemed very desperate to get something out of this process. And to be totally honest with you guys, the people I respect the most from this pod situation are the people who were like, you know what, this is too short of a timeline, I'm leaving. The person I want is not here, I'm leaving. Those are usually the people where I'm like, honestly, kudos to you for recognizing that and not wasting somebody's time. Now, as far as Blake and Anna not saying goodbye, I always wonder how much of that has to do with the producers, because obviously somebody knew that they were going home and somebody still told them both to go to the pod and wait. They did not communicate to them that this other person wasn't coming so that they could film it, so that they could have these sound bites. So because of that, I always question how involved is production and that decision of like, okay, well, if you're leaving, you have to leave now. Such is already in another date right now, so you can't tell them goodbye. We don't get to hear what they have to say, which makes me think there might be something missing from the story. Again, this is not a video about Patrick, but even the proposal was very weird.
Your soul is timeless. I absolutely adore you. I absolutely am obsessed with you. I'm gonna choose you for eternity, infinity, whatever you want to call it.
And then for them to get proposed, and then he says the family is gonna be full of half mixies.
Imagine Christmas parties. Our Christmas parties are gonna be lit.
Halloween and Christmas parties.
All our kids and your brother's kids, they're all gonna be half mixies.
I'll just leave it at that. Now, a lot of people are asking, why was Kacie all over him and not saying goodbye?
Or you trying to just get home?
No, I don't want to go. This is something I definitely want to talk about, which is one of the ways that we deal with anxiety and other negative affect is through a strategy called fawning. We don't talk a lot about that. We talk about fight, flight, and now we talk about freezing, but we don't often talk about fawning. And I believe in this moment, that is what Kacie was doing. She was feeling a lot of anxiety about how she was going to be received by Patrick and by the viewers.
He deserves somebody that is so obsessed with him.
That's not you?
No. I understand how that is about to look.
Instead of being vocal and assertive and saying what she really wanted or acknowledging that she wasn't attracted, instead she just was all over him to kind of try to soothe his feelings and also to hide from her own. I think at that point she was feeling a lot of embarrassment for how she was going to be looking, and so she fawned all over him. There are a lot of different ways of looking at that situation. I'm curious if you guys have any theories about why Kacie was jumping on him and kissing him. And I thought it was super interesting when Patrick was like, Like,
I think she's pretty genuine. I don't think she's gaslighting. You could tell we're attracted to each other. It has nothing to do with physical attraction.
and it was like her overcompensating for the fact that she was not attracted to him. My first impression of Mike seemed like he wanted to lead with his wealth as a primary identifier. I thought it was super interesting that as he's talking about this club he's in, he had mentioned that it's for wealthy guys.
You talked about the holistic stuff, and I'm in that game for sure. I'm a part of this larger, called a tribe, but it's a national thing. There's a bunch of guys that are like wealthy that are part of it. It's not just about money and business and whatnot, but it has pillars. Health is one of the pillars.
But his whole point was supposed to be around health, right? So it really wasn't even relevant to what he was talking about, but it seems like he wanted to make sure that she knew he had money. And I think that's the interesting thing. They call this a social experiment. I truly do think of it as a social experiment. I wish we could watch it a little bit more raw, but they have to put it into a format that's going to reach the masses. But it's interesting to see how even in these contexts where you are robbed of the visual and you have the opportunity to rely on your personality for a connection, I think it's super interesting to see how people still default to the characteristics that they're able to use in the real world. So for example, Kacie is probably accustomed to being able to use her sexuality and her looks to attract the type of men that she wants. She even said that her last relationship was based purely on looks. She saw the guy on TikTok, thought he looked good, reached out to him on Instagram, and that's how they got together.
Before this, the guy I dated, I saw on a social media platform. I'm solely basing I want to meet you off of what you look like.
Wow.
I wasn't like fangirling, but I just thought like, oh, that guy's really cute.
So this is how she's typically able to get the kind of guys that she wants. So without being able to show herself, she's still relying on her sexuality through words to build an image in his mind that would make him attracted to her, to make him choose her. And we see the same thing with Mike. Maybe in the real world, Mike drives a nice car. Maybe you can see his watch, different things that would indicate to someone that he's well off. But because he doesn't have those signifiers to let somebody know that he's wealthy, he has to just say it. And he's still trying to disguise it under, I'm talking about this club I'm in and the importance of health. But in reality, he's trying to let her know that he's well off. I also thought that Mike showed somewhat of a superiority complex. And the reason I say that is because I thought it was interesting that he looked at other people's problems as a function of choices that they're making. So even when he talks about Jordan's son, Luca, having type 1 diabetes, he's like, that's why like health is so important.
One of the guys, he's a dad, and he basically said that his kid has diabetes. I had a friend that was pre-diabetic, and he just like totally changed up his diet, and now he's good. And so maybe it's not that easy for everyone, but I just think like health and nutrition is just has to be top of mind.
In reality, type 1 diabetes, it's not caused by your diet. It's something that you're born with or develops in early childhood. And I thought it was interesting that when he was saying that Megan didn't kind of call him out on that, knowing that with her father, that with juvenile diabetes type 1, it's not a matter of this person should have been prioritizing their health. So to establish yourself as superior to a little kid who has diabetes, I thought was really interesting. It showed a little bit of a lack of empathy in my opinion. And once again, we just have this overemphasis of sex. The conversations around sex in these seasons are starting to just get more and more, I'll say inappropriate, because you have 10 days to like figure out if you want to marry somebody, and sex is an important part of that. Don't get me wrong. Sex is absolutely an important part of that. However, it's just interesting, like he shares with her some of the things he wrote about her in his notebook.
Can't wait to tie Megan to the bed.
Michael.
I can't speak for him, but I just think that's interesting, your priorities and the things that you're writing down about what's your number one pick. So these are some of the people that I won't be able to really do a whole breakdown on because they don't end up with these people, but who knows what happens. We've seen people switch partners in the past, and I might be covering more of these topics later on. I know a lot of you want me to talk about Edmund and Calabria. I'm gonna have to obviously dedicate an entire video to that, but let's just say I understand why some of you have said that things things are feeling scary. Let me know your thoughts about season 9 so far. Are you enjoying it? I love to get a conversation going. I'm actually thinking about maybe doing some lives about Love is Blind, maybe. I'm not sure if I'll have time to do that, but I'm trying to get these out to you all. But you know, the couple breakdowns are what most people like to see, and obviously it takes a while for us to get to those. So let me know if there's anything you'd like to see in the meantime. I appreciate you guys for watching this video all the way until the end. I hope that you like it, subscribe to my channel, and share it with anyone that you think might find this interesting. And thanks again to our friends at Thrive Market. If you'd like to try it for yourself, use the link in my description box or go to thrivemarket.com/Stephania. I appreciate you guys for watching this video all the way until the end. You didn't have to, but the fact that you did helps me out so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you.